What are the differences between Princess Rhaenys Targaryen in House of the Dragon versus Fire and Blood? Is their story the same? And what was this about? This is the real Rhaenys. At the start of Hot D Season 1, we witnessed the Great Council of 101 AC. The Lords and Landed Knights of Westeros have gathered to cast their vote for the future monarch. There are two factions on stage, the Viserocrats and the Rhaenobligans. Viserys is the eldest son of Jaehaerys' second son, while Rhaenys is the only child of Jaehaerys' first son. Viserys is joined by his pregnant wife, Aemma Arryn, while Rhaenys is joined by her husband, Corlys Velaryon, the Sea Snake. The electorate cast their vote, and Vizzy T becomes the heir to the Iron Throne. 9 years later, everyone has refused to age. Black don't crack, and Rhaenys is still a snack. The couple attends the heirs tournament with their children, Laena and Laenor. I guess they hate their kids. Rhaenys' mother was a Baratheon. Her cousin is this man, Lord Bormund Baratheon, who asks for her favour during the joust. He refers to her by her nickname, the Queen Who Never Was. Clearly, there are those who still believe it is she who should sit the Iron Throne. Most of all, her husband. They are not happy with Viserys' decision to break the precedent set by the Great Council by naming his daughter as his heir. One rule for her, another for the realm's delight, it appears. She lets her thoughts be known, bitterly suggesting that the Lords of Westeros will never accept a woman on the Iron Throne. Rhaenyra, bitingly, wonders aloud if Rhaenys was rejected for being a woman or just for being Rhaenys. Years after Viserys abandons the 12-year-old Laena for a 15-year-old Alicent, he personally visits the island of Driftmark to propose a marriage between Rhaenyra and Laenor. After some negotiation, they accept the terms. By this point, Rhaenys has made peace with not being queen, unlike her husband, whose ambitions are insatiable. The princess, knowing that Rhaenyra's position as heir is tenuous, is primarily scared for her son's safety. She is also aware of Laenor being gay, which Corlys conversely lies to himself about. It's just a phase, Corlys, don't worry. Rhaenys travels to King's Landing on Dragonback to attend the various wedding celebrations. She rides Meleys, the Red Queen. God damn, look at that Velaryon drip. We next see the princess a decade later. Again, the Targs have some good genes, damn. She attends her daughter's funeral with the rest of her family. Though she shows compassion to her granddaughters Baela and Rhaena, she seems less friendly towards her supposed grandsons and their mother, Rhaenyra. She knows they are bastards. She pleads with Corlys, asking Baela to be named as the future heir to Driftmark instead of Lucerys. But Corlys assures her that history does not remember blood, it remembers names. The death of her daughter has hit her hard. She fears that her death is a punishment from the gods for the Velaryons' ambitious drive, and that's before Laenor's faked death. 6 years later, Rhaenys is ruling Driftmark with Baela as her ward. Corlys has dealt with his grief by fighting in the Stepstones, but has recently been wounded in battle. His brother Vaemond Velaryon travels to King's Landing to petition the Iron Throne for the heirdom. Of course, the king has turned into a fallout ghoul, so Otto Hightower will be hearing the petition. How convenient. Rhaenyra wants Rhaenys to stand up for her in court. She suggests a couple of betrothals, Jacaerys to Baela and Lucerys to Rhaena. That way, both the Iron Throne and Driftmark will eventually pass to Rhaenys and Corlys' true blood. Rhaenys eventually agrees, standing up for Luke during the petition. We get a short scene where she gazes upon Vaemond's corpse. Laenor, now Vaemond, she has witnessed so much death she is numb to it. Perhaps she married into a cursed family. Vizzy T dies, and Rhaenys is locked in her room while the Greens scheme to place Aegon on the throne. Queen Alicent tries to convince her to support this coup, one strong woman to another. Their duty, of course, is to guide these foolish men to the correct course. Rhaenys isn't having any of it. Why wield power from the sidelines when you can take it yourself? In her words, Alicent is merely creating a window in the wall of her prison. The princess is freed by Sir Eric Cargill of the Kingsguard, but they're forcefully separated by a jostling crowd heading to the Dragon Pit for Aegon's coronation. Rhaenys brandishes her crime hoodie from DZ Season 1 and slips away from the crowd. And then nothing controversial happens. The episode just ends. In the finale we see— oh wait. So yeah, Rhaenys dons her fancy armour, climbs onto her dragon melees, bursts through the floor without crushing herself, and massacres thousands of commoners. We know that there are other entrances and exits, so this was not a necessary action to take. She marches her dragon over to the stage, where the bulk of the conspirators stand in terrified awe. Otto, Alicent, Aegon, Aemond, Helena, Sir Criston, Lord Jasper, Sir Tyland, Grand Maester Orwyle, and the High Septon. Fuck this guy in particular. Rhaenys does not shout Dracarys, but instead flies away to Dragonstone. So the question is, why does this happen? Well, we know why. It's because Miguel Sapochnik wasn't happy that the episode ended with a mere coronation, and Sarah has suggested the Gold Boss massacre of 129 AC for reasons beyond our comprehension. But let's try to work out the characters' motivations. There are two options. One is that Rhaenys initially wanted to wipe out the Hightowers. Killing them all would collapse the conspiracy. Sure, the surviving Greens would rally behind Prince Jaehaerys, but he's just a child, and a messy regency would struggle to gather as much support among the nobility. It could be that Rhaenys considered the massacre of the commoners to be a necessary evil to kill the Greens, only to change her mind at the last second, unable to be a kinslayer. The other option is that bursting through the floor was merely a show of force, an act of spite, a murderous middle finger to the slimy conspirators who dared to lock her up. After all, peasants are just peasants. They don't count. The first option is more tragic. The second makes Rhaenys come across as a legitimate sociopath, which doesn't really fit in line with what we've seen of her. Anyway, in the finale, she flies to Dragonstone to inform Rhaenyra and Daemon of Viserys' death. The war is inevitable, but not hers to fight. When Rhaenyra is crowned, she's the only person who refuses to bend the knee. Eventually, she has a change of heart, and successfully persuades Corlys to support the Black Queen. Of course, their granddaughter's betrothals are still on the table, but something else influences Rhaenys. Queen Rhaenyra's reluctance to go to war and shed blood. To her, it shows the temperament of a level-headed ruler who cares more about stability and peace than shedding blood for its own sake. The Velaryon fleet is sent to blockade King's Landing by sea, and Rhaenys offers to guard the ships atop Meleys the Red Queen. This is the last we see of her in Season 1. Let's move on to Fire and Blood, an account by Archmaester Gildain, who cites various, often conflicting sources. Here we learn about the princess's history. Rhaenys Targaryen is the daughter of Jocelyn Baratheon and Aemon Targaryen, the Prince of Dragonstone and firstborn son and heir of King Jaehaerys I. She was born in 74 AC, becoming the presumed second in line to the Iron Throne after her father. She inherited the purple eyes of her father, but the dark hair of her Baratheon mother. When she was 13 years old, she claimed the dragon Meleys, who had formerly been ridden by her aunt, Alyssa Targaryen, who, by the way, was the mother of Viserys and Daemon. She had tragically died in childbirth 3 years prior. When Rhaenys was 15 years old, she joined her grandfather Jaehaerys on his royal progress, flying to Highgarden and the Shield Islands in the Reach. It was during this progress that she asked for her grandfather's blessing to marry Lord Corlys Velaryon, the legendary sea snake. The blessing was given, and a year later, they married. She was 16 and he was 37, which isn't weird at all. When she was 18 years old, her father Prince Aemon died. He had been leading the campaign against Myrish pirates on Tarth, when an enemy scout shot him through the neck with a crossbow bolt. King Jaehaerys skipped over the pregnant Rhaenys and named his second-born son, Prince Balon the Brave, as the new Prince of Dragonstone. Rhaenys was furious, Lord Corlys resigned from the small council, and the two returned to Driftmark. They had 2 children together, a daughter, Laena, and a son, Laenor. In 1010C, Prince Balon the Brave died of a burst belly following a painful hunting trip. Jaehaerys called a Great Council at Harrenhal to settle the succession issue. Leading the 14 claims to the Iron Throne were Balon's son, Viserys, Rhaenys herself, and Rhaenys' son, Laenor. In Fire and Blood, Lord Bormund Baratheon is Rhaenys' uncle, not her cousin. He is, however, a fierce supporter of his niece, but Rhaenys' sex prevented her claim from gaining any further support, so her and Corlys rallied their efforts behind their son. This was simplified to Viserys versus Rhaenys in House of the Dragon. Laenor Velaryon gained the support of Houses Stark, Dustin, Manderley, Blackwood, Bar Emmon, Celtigar, and others. However, the Lords and Landed Knights of the Seven Kingdoms ultimately voted for Viserys to be the Prince of Dragonstone. Supposedly, the vote was 20-1. The epithet "the Queen Who Never Was" coined by the court fool Mushroom, who briefly appears as a cameo in Hot D. The family lived on the island of Driftmark. At age 7, the young Laenor claimed the dragon Seasmoke, while Laena Velaryon claimed her dragon age 12, the mighty Vhagar, formerly ridden by Balon the Brave and Queen Visenya before him. Just a year later, a marriage between the young lady and King Viserys was suggested by Grand Maester Runsiter. Viserys chose Alicent Hightower instead, and the Velaryons did not attend the wedding. But the breach was eventually sealed. By 113 AC, King Viserys and his small council agreed to a marriage between Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, the heir to the Iron Throne, and Laenor Velaryon. Laenor had grown into a handsome young dragon rider who spent more time with handsome squires than beautiful women. His 2 alleged lovers were Sir Joffrey Lonmouth, who was mortally wounded by Sir Criston Cole during a joust, and Sir Carl Corrie. Rhaenyra officially gave Rhaenys 3 grandchildren, Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey. Meanwhile, Laena was betrothed to the son of the Sea Lord of Braavos, although he proved to be a wastrel. When Prince Daemon Targaryen visited Driftmark, he insulted the Braavosi until he was challenged to a duel, which he promptly won, slaying the lad with Dark Sister. God, I wish that scene was in the show. Laena was so impressed by Daemon's riz that they wed a fortnight later. The newlyweds travelled across Essos, Pentos, Volantis, Qohor, and Norvos. Laena and Daemon gave Rhaenys 2 granddaughters, the twins Baela and Rhaena. Laena and Daemon were often visited by Princess Rhaenyra, and some suspect these visits were less than scrupulous. Laena died in 120 AC. After giving birth to a stillborn son, depression and fever set in. She died trying to fly Vhagar one last time. Laenor died later that year, slain by Sir Carl Corrie in Spicetown. We know nothing about a staged death in the book. Perhaps Sir Carl killed him out of jealousy, or perhaps it was on the orders of Prince Daemon. Due to the broad nature of the historical text, we don't know how Rhaenys responded to the death of her children. After the death of King Viserys, Rhaenyra proclaimed herself the rightful queen. Prince Rhaenys is not in King's Landing during the Green Coup, so never commits any mass murder during the coronation. Instead, she sat on the Black Council alongside her husband. As in the show, the Valyrian fleet blockades the Gullet, while Rhaenys protects the ships overhead on Meleys. Let's jump into Season 2 of House of the Dragon. Rhaenys returns to Dragonstone to gorge and rest. Hell yes. Daemon insists that the two of them should fly their dragons to King's Landing to kill Aemond and Vhagar, but she refuses. He blames her for Lucerys' death. If only she had roasted the greens at the coronation. The princess often clashes with the Black Council. She tells the feisty Sir Alfred Broom to watch his tongue, draws parallels between Rhaenyra and Jaehaerys the Conciliator, and proves ineffective at steering the rudderless ship during the Queen's absence. She acts almost like an angel on Rhaenyra's shoulders. You know, a mass-murdering angel. She commends the Queen for not acting rashly in her grief, and urges her in person to reach out to Alicent in hopes of potentially ending the war. She questions when exactly the war began. When Jaehaerys was murdered? Or when Lucerys was murdered? Or when Aemond lost his eye? As Simon Strong says, sin begets sin begets sin. Rhaenys' relationship with her husband remains steadfast. They have political pillow talk, she visits him at the Driftmark shipyard to give him some ale and discuss succession, and she invites him to Dragonstone to join the council in Rhaenyra's absence. She also seems to be aware of Alan's true identity, and believes he should be rewarded for saving Corlys and not hidden away. When Sir Criston Cole's army attacks Rook's Rest, Rhaenys offers to take Meleys to the battlefield. She is, after all, the largest and most experienced dragon. Despite her initial success at making a green barbecue, King Aegon arrives on Sunfire, and the two duel. Sunfire's appearance was unexpected, while Vhagar's is part of Criston's trap. The golden dragon is sent tumbling in a smoking ruin due to friendly fire, and the two she-dragons face each other. The Battle of Rook's Rest ends when Vhagar sneak attacks Meleys, chomping on her neck until she dies. Rhaenys, strapped to her saddle, can do nothing but await the inevitable as she plummets to the castle below. There she lies with Meleys, the second black dragon casualty. Let's return to Fire and Blood. In the book, the young Prince Joffrey is furious following Lucerys' death, and it is Rhaenys who stops him from leaping on his dragon Tyrexes and avenging his brother. Rhaenyra is grief-stricken and unsound of mind, so temporarily passes control of the Black War Council to Rhaenys and Corlys. As in the show, Sir Criston Cole and his army march towards Rook's Rest. Lord Staunton sends a raven to Dragonstone begging for aid, but Rhaenyra determines that it's far too risky for her or either of her surviving sons to go. Rhaenys takes up the responsibility and flies there herself. In the book, the trap involves both Vhagar and Sunfire, who strike from above. There is no friendly fire that we know of. Sunfire and Meleys simply smash into each other and eventually crash to the ground. Meleys is torn to pieces, and the Princess Rhaenys is burned to a crisp. Rhaenys in Fire and Blood is a simple character, a clever, fearless woman with a fiery temperament. She's far more fleshed out in House of the Dragon. She can be snarky, but also respectful. She sometimes shows disdain towards Corlys' ambitions, but clearly wants to advance her own granddaughter's positions. Rhaenys is a woman of compassion. She loves her husband and her children and her grandchildren. She spares the Hightowers. She preaches caution and restraint in the face of vengeful bloodlust, but not so much as to spare the lives of commoners during her dragon pit escape. Despite Rhaenys' many actions, her legacy has been cemented with an epithet. For better or for worse, she is the queen who never was. Thanks for watching. Like this video and subscribe to Fantasy Haven for more animated A Song of Ice and Fire and House of the Dragon lore. If you're interested, we have a Patreon for exclusive goodies such as videos, live streams and the Discord. And we've also got a merch store. Links are in the description below. If you'd like to learn more about the epic rivalry between the Brackens and the Blackwoods, check out this video. Special thanks to all of my patrons, in particular Alex, Andre, Caden, Colshot, Devcole and Loopsie. See you later.